Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's GrowthSM talk. Today with us, we have Wesley Wells, who is a product marketing manager. Welcome, Wesley.
Hi, nice to see you.
So, Wesley, briefly describe to me some of the roles and responsibilities that you currently have.
At the moment, in a lot of the freelance roles, it is helping a client work out how they are going to get their product to an audience. A lot of times clients don't really know what sort of audience they want. They just say, oh, my product is available for everyone. Everyone should like it. But that doesn't really help them in terms of media buy, media spend, where to spend their time and their energy. So a lot of my time is spent helping people work out where they should put their energy and how they should use it.
So you mentioned energy there. Is there a lot of energy involved in doing these processes you have, or is it more of like a fear, the energy of the fear of using too much energy in these processes?
I think a lot of the times with new startups and people that have got their initial idea, they have a ton of energy. They just have no idea what direction to put it in. They take a real shotgun approach, and they just because at the moment they own their product, they own their marketing, they own their sales, they own their finance, their HR, and a lot of them are getting very little help. They don't really know what to do, so they're very sporadic in their thinking. And even the most organized people that I know, when it comes to their own products, their own projects, their own websites, it goes chaotic because they're out of ideas, or they've got too many ideas usually. So a lot of my role is just helping people prioritize their ideas, focus down onto a couple of specific areas, and then create timelines, create resource maps, that kind of stuff.
So how do you prioritize those list of many things?
So I usually focus mainly on the product that they have, breaking it down into its function and its attributes, as it were. So its function is what it does, and then I guess attributes is kind of the value that it creates. And then we try and work out how to target certain people with the certain values. So if a product is, or a project is focusing on health, for instance, then we will try and work out what demographic is interested in this at the moment, what media can we use to attract that demographic, and how can we get in touch with them.
And what would be the process there? Do you have a technology that you'd recommend, or is it very manual processes where you simply dive straight in and start building research and analyses?
A lot of the times with small people, it's based on word of mouth. It's who they know. That's your first 10 friends that's your first audience, and they'll know someone that's given them a hand, or someone that can help them out. So we usually start from that sort of basis: who are your friends, who are your family, where can we find access there. After that, we go to social or government support. Is there any funding available that would then help us in the future? So that's usually government side. And then after that, we start looking at audiences. And from there, that's where you break it down. Are we going to go social? And then on social, you've got 5 to 10 different types of media that you can buy into. Is it business to business more? Do we need to find influencers? A lot of the times it's a unique product or a unique idea, but no such thing as unique. Someone else has already created something similar, so you're looking at them, seeing what they're doing, who they're targeting, who they're playing with, and then you're making a plan based on that.
Gotcha. So there's a lot of analysis there based on competitors, so you can identify competitors, what are their current processes, and you can kind of build strategy from there.
Yep, I would say competitors are an obvious one because most of the time they're already set up and running. The political environment, social, and what can the client do economically, because they can't do a helicopter campaign, they can't do pie in the sky, but they can spend £100 on Facebook or $100.
What social channels would you recommend? Would it be messaging, email, advertising? What would be like some critical social things to consider? And let's base this off of the idea that you do have a slight B2C element, but it is B2B predominantly. Social can, and it's beginning to prove often common now, that it can target B2B audiences. But what would be some channels that may be on the top of mind?
Truly depends on the product and the not the person, the brand, the personality of the brand, I guess. Some places sit well on Instagram. Others will die a horrible death because they just don't have the content to make it fit, and it will look awkward and ugly. It would be some sort of analysis of the options available to them. I think Reddit is becoming an increasingly popular, almost guerrilla marketing tactic, because sponsored adverts on Reddit are happening, but I think more of the product placement on Reddit is where the organic stories are starting. They're really blurring the lines, and the users of Reddit don't really like it, but it's everywhere, and that might be a tactic that would be useful. Alternatively, LinkedIn is a big source of B2B stuff, as everybody knows. And then you've got the new to market that no one really understands or how to handle, the TikToks. Not so much Snapchat anymore, but yeah, different channels depending on what you need and what audience you're trying to attract. And sometimes the audience that you think you have isn't the audience that you want in the future, because you might be targeting your current audience and their friends, but they're not really spending that much. So actually you want to target a couple of higher spenders so you can change your prices or change your format depending on what you need.
Yeah, and I think it's important to pull from that the idea that, yeah, you have a really engaged audience. You have a really engaged, they interact, they comment, they follow, but you're spending dollars to attract them, and you're continuously spending dollars to attract them, but you're not receiving any monetary in return, or not enough monetary to build a measurable cost of acquisition or ROI on that investment.
Yeah.
So I think that's should always be measuring in. So do you agree?
Yeah, I think the big brands can spend a little bit more time and money on community building. But I think for the smaller ones, unless it's just a part-time job and they're slowly building it. But if you've gone all in on your product or your project, you really need to start getting some money back. You've probably only got a year in your pipeline of funding. So it's important to focus on not just your friends and family who are supporting you a little bit, but how can you actually turn this into a real earning?
So as a final kind of question to kind of round off our conversation today, do you have any advice that you can give to an early stage company or an early stage nonprofit or any kind of organization that wants to operate professionally?
I think the most important thing is to identify your value and something that your product or your project is giving to the people, to the community. And it's not always necessarily what you think it is. So it's important to ask friends, get some research, and work out what other people think the value is in your product or your idea. And then from there, I think it's focusing in on how you can release it, how can you get it out there. And often I think in beginning stages, people are hesitant because they've got such a brilliant and fantastic and large idea that they're hesitant to just get going, just test it, get it out there, get that minimum viable product gone, and then work based off of those ideas quickly. I think perfect is the enemy of good at the beginning, and you just really want to get stuff out there, get it moving, and just prove to yourself that you can start moving forward with it.
Yeah, and I think kind of the two takeaways there to highlight would be: get out there. Don't let fear guide or control your go-to market. And secondly, don't trust all social media. You can initially start with all social platforms, and you may have a consideration of who your market audience is going to be, but that may not necessarily always pan out for the long tail of the organization. So you should always conduct analyses. How much are you spending to acquire these leads, and who really is my target audience? I think that's something you mentioned there that's really important as well.
And a willingness to pivot. Once you've got your minimum viable product out and you realize, oh, this isn't quite going the way I want it to, don't get stuck in the mud on that. Be willing to go, but there is a profit revenue stream here. I'm just going to go this way for a little while, just to get some money under your belt, get yourself built and going, and you can always go back to your original idea eventually. But WhatsApp, Instagram, lots of the big bigs have all pivoted from their original idea.
Well, Wesley, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening to today's Growth Talk. Thank you, Wesley. Have a fantastic rest of your day.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye-bye.